we're back. Day 131 of This Is Not Advice. I'm Min, and that's Roy, and we're startup investors at Bloomberg Beta in the future of work. And we answer your questions here about startups, venture, work, Monday through Thursdays. And today we're actually answering a question that we get fairly frequently. And so, if I'm thinking about starting a company, how do I find a technical co-founder?
Yeah, this one is definitely a classic. And I'd say that it goes in waves. There have been years where it seems like there's lots of business people looking for technical co-founders, and years where there's lots of technical co-founders looking for business people. And in general, if you're starting a venture-backed company, in general, not always, we prefer that you know the person really well, because it's such a trust-driven exercise that it's kind of hard. It does work. I mean, but the Insta team that just comes together, Instagram, I guess, was one of those, but it's rare. And so where I start with from this one is, the first question is, do you really need a technical co-founder? Many founders would be better served by learning how to build at least the first version of the product themselves. Oftentimes when people are asking themselves if they need a technical co-founder, they're trying to start something that doesn't have any technical risk. And what we mean by technical risk is there a chance it can't be done? Everything has risk in how well it's built. But take a service like Clubhouse. There's no question that it could be done. It doesn't have technology risk about its feasibility, unlike take something that we invested in like Cobalt Robotics, which is a robot that patrols offices at night. To some people, they may have looked at it and said, I don't know if this can be done. Now, we knew those founders could do it. But assuming you're doing a business where you know it can be done, then the first question is, can you learn enough to do it? And many founders just assume they can't. And that's probably a mistake. Then let's assume that you do want to go collaborate with somebody to go build something. The mistake that people make is that they assume that the way it works is I'm going to go out and talk to a bunch of people and find my match made in heaven, and then we'll agree to co-found a company together and we shall embark. And that lesson of decide up front, I think, is much harder to make work than allowing something to emerge naturally. So let's say that you are not connected to anybody in the tech industry, you don't know a bunch of engineers. I'd go and try to find a contractor, maybe pay them a little bit of money or beg a friend of a friend to do it for free and see if they do a little bit of work, because you'll learn about how things get built, and you'll discover what that person is like, and you'll make a lot of mistakes before it's too costly, because you've already decided to work with the person. Now, if you are in the tech industry, or you're deeply connected through school or in some other way with a bunch of technical people who can be co-founders, then it is a dating process. And ideally, you're never sitting there and saying, should we embark upon this journey then either? You're finding somebody who, a friend of a friend knows too, and you're sitting with them nights and weekends for a month and collaborating, and it looks like a very similar exploration process. The difference is you probably have a better feel for it. So those are a few of the paths. There are 1,000 variations on this. I'm sure people in comments on Twitter or wherever will have a bunch of views, but that's one way of thinking of it. What do you think I left on the left out of focus, and that's important for us to share with folks?
I think the one thing I'd add is, even before you're asking yourself the question of, do I need a technical co-founder? What are you trying to build and prove? I think is probably the first place to start, because there's a bunch of ways that you can. I don't know. There are founders that we've worked with where they'll run a couple Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads, set up a landing page, build a wait list, and then try to generate some momentum or inkling of something being there. And then if you decide that after that, okay, you need to build something, then there's so many different resources. I don't know, we're OnDeck had just started their no code fellowship. And so that's another way that you can try to build an early version to show people what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes when people are asking if they need a technical co-founder, it's code for not only am I not an engineer, but I actually don't know how products get built at all. And to me, one of the great advantages, or digital technical products, technology products, one of the great advantages of starting to practice low and no code building is the line is pretty blurry. You'll start thinking computationally. You'll learn how something gets built. Your ideas for like, oh, I'm going to draw a picture in my head, and then somebody's going to code it up and make it look like the picture. Like, you'll lose those ideas, and you'll understand the iterative, one step at a time, work stream driven way that people build and test things.
Totally. So that's just the surface level. I mean, there's so much we can go from this question, but we'll be back on Monday. And so if you do have other follow-up questions on this, like find us on Twitter and LinkedIn and drop us a note. We'll be back on Monday with This Is Not Advice.
Actually, just to say on this one that is going to have lots of people who we may send this to over time. In fact, I just had this question in my inbox a few days ago. This is not us telling you what to do. It's not advice. And the reason this is not advice is because when somebody's giving you advice, they're trying to tell you what you should do with your life, but really their thoughts are formed by their own life or their own business. You have to decide what you're going to do. These are hypotheses. There's ways to think about it. There are experiences, and we will be back to be continued.
To be continued.
Thank you, Min.